And still talking the Russian-Ukraine war with Ukraine's pledge to defend Bakhmut, lecturer of politics and international relations, Liverpool Hope University, Bola Adediran joins me now via Skype. Good to have you join us, Dr. Adediran.
Thank you for having me.
So we see how Ukraine is doing all it can to defend Bakhmut while Russia is advancing. Talk to us about what you think is at stake for both countries.
Well, what is at stake is it's really symbolic. There is no strategic value for Russia, particularly in Bakhmut. If Russia manages to secure Bakhmut after 10 months of fighting and after the heavy losses that it's gained or it's suffered in Bakhmut, what it will signal is that Russia has managed to secure a part of the territory in the Donbas region that has been fighting very hard, had committed a lot of bodies and soldiers to over the last 10 months. So there are no strategic values for Russia particularly. And for Ukraine, again, it's about keeping the cost of the war very high for Russia and ensuring that for every inch that Russia gains, that it's going to suffer and commit a lot of soldiers and secure lots of losses for every inch that it gains. So in the real fact of it, according to various military analysts, is that Bakhmut does not really have strategic value, but it has symbolic value to both countries, really.
Mm. Russia called up hundreds of thousands of reservists last year. It has also now involved the Wagner mercenary group. If Russia were to capture Bakhmut, you don't think that it signals that it is perhaps gaining momentum in this war?
Well, I think that's very difficult to gauge based on the fact that this has been a long-running battle for a very small part of the Donbas region. As I said, it's been going on for the last 10 months. So it's very difficult because Russia still has logistical problems in terms of supplies of ammunition and weapons. The Wagner private military group that you reference have been the needed ammunition and the needed arms to take the offensive to the Ukrainian side. And in fact, the head of the Wagner group was complaining recently that it could be signal some form of bureaucracy or even as much as betrayal of the Russian military. So there are still clear problems with logistical supplies from the Russian military side. But I think what this would also signal is that at least in some ways, this will be the biggest offensive gain of Russia since the winter offensive started in August, September last year. Since then, Russia has not made any large military gains. So if it manages to secure Bakhmut, it will be an offensive gain from its long winter war. But I don't think that there is massive sort of indications that we can draw from that game.
We've also seen past struggle between Russia's Wagner Group and the Defense Ministry, with the Wagner Group accusing the Defense Ministry of not supplying weapons and accusing it of betrayal. If this struggle continues, could it reflect on the front lines in Ukraine?
Sorry, could you repeat that last bit, please?
If the power struggle between the Wagner Group and the Russian Defense Ministry continues, will it reflect on the front lines in Ukraine?
Oh yes, it will. It will because the Russian military itself was disintegrated for majority of last year, and it's until the private military group, the Wagner Group, began to really insert itself on the front lines before Russia began to make the sort of modicum gains that we've seen in the war. So there is a sense in which the Wagner Group has helped in many respects to push the offensive lines for Russia. And the continued areas of dislocations and disagreements between the Russian military forces and the defense ministry and the Wagner Group does not signal well for the Russians. But I think what is much more important, and which you reference in your in your report earlier is the role that China can play in all of this.
I would just come in there, Dr. Adediran. I was about to get there because I know you're referencing the statement coming from China and Belarus presidents saying that, look, they're committed to a peace process in Ukraine. Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy there is a document put together by China. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy did say that he agrees with some part of that document. But judging by how the West has continued to react to China and Belarus, do you think that they will support this particular peace process if it is orchestrated by China?
I think that there is concern that China is just making sort of a rhetorical commitment to peace without necessarily trying to fashion out a peace plan. The 10-piece agenda, the 10-point peace agenda that China has put forward is very light on the details. If you read the 10-point peace agenda, it basically speaks about having access to grains, for allowing respect for sovereignty and territory, all of those things that obviously, respect for the UN Charter, all of those things are very light on details. And I suspect this is why many Western countries are sort of taking backseat on China's peace deal, because it does not really say much more than, it doesn't really give much of a peace plan. But I think what is important in all of this is, again, the extent to which China either commits to providing military aid to Russia or doesn't. If Germany, as Olaf Scholz has said, if Germany commits to putting sanctions on China for supporting Russia, then we can see some movement in terms of China placing much more emphasis on Russia moving forward to a peace deal. But I think that where we are going to see much traction in the future is the extent to which China is committed to helping Russia with arms and ammunition, and really supporting Russia in its offensives during the spring and summer.
We'll continue to see how things play out. Thank you so much for talking to us. A lecturer of politics and international relations, Liverpool Hope University, Dr. Bola Adediran.
Thank you very much.